Dashboard cards are the thing that can make or break your Home Assistant dashboard, and with so many fantastic offerings available in HACS, it can be hard to find just the right card to use. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 cards that I've discovered recently that will all add something a bit special to your setup. So come with me as I take you from the simple offering right the way through to the super impressive. Hey everyone, my name's Simon and welcome to Byte of Geek, a channel that's all about Home Assistant and smart home technology. So every so often I like to show off just some of the contributions built by the Home Assistant community for all of us to enjoy. And in this video, I'm going to take you through 5 very different cards that could add something extra special to your Home Assistant dashboard. All of the cards I feature in this video will have links to the GitHub repository in the description of this video if you're interested in checking them out. So without further ado, let's jump straight in with the first card in my list, and this card is certainly something a bit unique. This one is called Treemap Card. Now, I've not seen anything like this before in Home Assistant, and it's a very different card with some unique use cases. You can see here on the GitHub repository in these examples that it's a very visual card for your dashboards. Great for seeing lots of information at a glance, and you can see here in these examples we've got humidity levels, radiator temperatures, lighting brightness levels, and even a breakdown of company stocks as well. According to the developer, this card can handle a lot of data without slowing down, and I'm not sure I have that number of similar entities in my setup to be able to put them in this card, but it's ideal for uses with things like sensors, lights, thermostats, and even custom data. There's lots of default settings, and it also works with the auto entities filtering component if you're used to using that. So to get this installed, we just need to go into HACS and search for Treemap Card. And as you can see, there's only one that comes up. So we just need to click on that and then click on the download button in the bottom right corner. We want the latest version installed, so we'll just click on download again. And when that's complete, we just then click on reload. Now to add this to our dashboard, we just click on edit dashboard, add a new item and search for Treemap. If we just click on the one that comes up, and as you can see, it's got a nice interface for configuring this via the UI with a preview of what the finished card will look like when it's on your dashboard. So starting off, and we can specify our entities, and it's already defaulted to a few temperature entities for us. I'm going to change this though, and we can use wildcards here. So if I just get rid of these 2 last items and then edit the first entity and replace the office with an asterisk, and as you can see on the preview, that's now immediately changed to all the rooms that have that type of sensor in them along with their current temperature readings. If we wanted to, we could also set up an exclude pattern to filter any of those results even further. We can then change the label for each entity so we can turn it on or off, and we can also add a prefix or suffix to it, just like this. Next, we've got the value displayed, and again, we can toggle that on or off and add a prefix or suffix if we want, and we can change the number of decimal places shown for the value. We can add an icon to each entity. So for these temperatures, we could add a radiator icon to show that it's heating related. And then we've got this spark line setting, and this is just the little graph that you can see on each of the tiles. So we can specify the time frame for the graph. We have a dark and a light mode for it, and we can have the line itself shown, or we can have just the filled in part of the graph. So I think that's just an aesthetic thing there really. We can adjust the colors for the different ranges of values, change the tiles to be equal sizes, or specify a minimum and maximum size. We've got options for sorting the data, limiting it, and filtering it all as well. Last but not least, we have our visual layout options, and finally we have our actions for when we click on an individual tile. If I now save this, and as you can see, this is what it looks like on the dashboard. And with the default click, you get the more information shown for each of the items displayed in the tree map. If we just go back to the GitHub page, and whilst what I've shown you is using it with standard entities, as you can see, you can also use this with something like JSON, which is how you would have the stock information displayed. There's lots you can do with this card, plenty of configuration to play with, and I think it's quite an interesting card. It's not something you're likely to have all over your dashboards, but I can see genuine use cases for this in a smart home setup. Let me know in the comments what you'd use this for on your dashboards. The next card on my list is something I found right after I did my weather cards video. It was too late to add to that, but this is a very nice addition to that list. This card is called Weather Forecast Card, and basically the author of this just wanted to create a better weather card, which was effectively a combination of features he has seen across multiple cards, and I think he's done a pretty good job. Now, straight away, I would say that this is a very visually appealing card and certainly ticks a lot of boxes in terms of functionality. If I just take a quick look at some of the key features it has, and you can scroll across the forecast, have different views of information, switch to a chart type display, use custom icons, display sun times, and have a nice animated weather condition effect on the background of the card as well. It's highly configurable, and as you can see here, lots to play around with to get a very nice looking card on your dashboard. So this is another card installed via HACS, and we just search for Weather Forecast Card. If we click on that and then click on the download button, we want the latest version, so we'll just click on download again and then click reload when that's complete. We can now go and edit our dashboard and add this card to it. And if I search for weather, and as you can see, I've got quite a few here, but we want this one, the Weather Forecast Card. So if I select that, and now we've got a nice interface for configuring this. Again, with a preview on the side, and it doesn't really look that much different to the standard card at the moment, but we've lots of options to play around with here to get this how we want it looking. Obviously, we have our weather entity, but if we want a different name displayed, for example, home, then we can type that in underneath. We've got different options for the forecast information, so we can display the full forecast or maybe switch to just the current weather, which is quite simple, or we can show just the forecast. Again, just a simple display of information. I'm going for the full weather forecast on this one, and after that we can specify if we want the forecast to be hourly or daily. So if I just toggle between these two settings, and as you can see, you can click on the forecast and then you can scroll backwards and forwards through the days and times. Next, we've got condition effects, and these are optional, but you can add as many of these as you want. And when your weather changes to one of these, then you'll get a visual effect on the card. Sadly, there isn't something for cloudy, so you're not going to see that here, but I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. However, for now, I'm going to select them all and then live in hope that the sun might come out sometime today. Next up, and if you've got an alternative temperature entity to the weather provider, so maybe you've got a weather station and you want a reading that's a bit more local to you, well, you can use that here instead. Moving on, and we're now starting to get into the detail of the card with the attributes, and it's worth pointing out here that with some of these values, your weather provider is going to need to expose that information. If it doesn't, then the card isn't going to be able to display that for you. However, if your provider does, then as you can see, there's plenty of attributes that you can add onto the card, and as I select some of them, you should start to see them appear on the preview. Along with these, we can also add on secondary information attributes as well. Next, we can change how the forecast is displayed, so we can have the simple values, or we can have a chart instead. And obviously, as you scroll around the weather forecast, that chart all scrolls with it as well. I think it's a pretty nice touch to have, and if you do as well, then hit that like button. We then have options for the chart itself, so we can change the default chart attribute. So I'm going to set it as temperature and precipitation, with the precipitation probability as the secondary information. We've then got options for the scrolling, showing the sunrise and sunset times, color thresholds, and also displaying a little selector which you can click on to be able to change the view on the forecast chart. Again, another nice feature. There's plenty more configuration available here, but if I just save this, and then we can see what it looks like on the dashboard. And as you can see, that selector makes it super easy to switch between the different information as well. As I mentioned earlier, this card has an animated background which works with those different weather conditions we specified, and I think this makes it really special. If we take a look at the GitHub page and just scroll down to the example, you can see here as the weather changes from snowy to rainy and clear night to sunny, you get a nice animated effect on the card itself. There's a lot of configuration available for this card, which is certainly worth reading through in more detail if you're interested in using it, including styling it with card mod as well. So that's Weather Forecast Card, and I'll put a link to this down below in the description. My next card is something called Timeflow Card, and this is one of those multi-use cards, and by that I mean it performs the same basic functionality, but you can definitely use this in lots of different situations. It's also a very simple card as well, and I don't think this is going to look out of place on your dashboard. As you can see, there isn't a huge list of configuration options for this card, so it's certainly something you should be able to get configured and up and running very quickly. You can see in these examples the different use cases here. We've got birthdays, backup reminders, time until the sunset. You could hook up your work calendar and have a team meeting reminder. Lots of different possibilities here with this one. Again, this is installed via HACS, and we just search for Timeflow and there should only be one result that comes up. So click on that and then click on the download button in the bottom right corner. We want the latest version, so just click on download again. And once that's done, we just click on reload and then we can add this to our dashboard. If I add a new card then and search for Timeflow, and as you can see, we've got a nice configuration UI for this with a card preview on the side, and it's defaulted to a countdown to the next new year. In terms of configuration, well, we can specify the target date and time along with the creation date and time. Under that, we can choose our card style. So we've got classic, which is what is displayed here. Then we have a nice compact version, and finally we have a version of that but with the progress circle on it as well, which is what I reckon most people would probably choose. We can then specify a timer entity, and we can also auto discover Amazon and Google timers as well, which is great functionality to have. We've then got a whole bunch of options for the colors, what information is displayed on the card, so whether we want days, months and years, for example, the layout of the card, all of which can be changed here, including the styling of the timer circle as well. So maybe you want to change the thickness of the circle, for example. As you can see in these examples, there's lots of different uses for this and lots of different ways to style it as well. And there are YAML snippets for these examples scattered throughout the GitHub page. So that's Timeflow Card. I think it's a super useful thing to have on your dashboard. And if you're interested in that, then check out the link in the description below. Now, before we go on to the next card, if you're enjoying this kind of smart home content, then why not hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss my next video. I create content like this every week on my channel, helping viewers just like you build a better smart home. So next on my list is a nice little card for those of you that want to see when entity states change and have them in a nice little dashboard card. This is quite similar to the information you see when you click on the more information on things like presence sensors and you see that little graph with the different state colors displayed. This card is called Waterfall History Card, and as you can see here on the GitHub page, we've got some examples showing the air quality, which would have made it perfect for using with something like the Sonoff CO2 monitor that I reviewed recently on the channel. Again, this is a relatively simple card that aims to show you the state changes of an entity displayed as a horizontal chart covering a defined period of time. So it's perfect, for example, if you set something up for monitoring, and rather than having to click into entities to see the details, you can just have an area on your dashboard to see this kind of information. You have various configuration options for defining the colors, including thresholds, state label, icons, and the different display modes. Like I say, a relatively simple but certainly an effective card. To install this into Home Assistant, we again go into HACS and search for Waterfall History, and there should just be one card available called Horizontal Waterfall History Card. Select that and then click on the download button in the bottom right corner of the screen, and then on the version pop-up we want the latest version, so just click on download. Once that's installed, just click on reload, and if we go into our dashboard, we should now be able to add this card by searching for Waterfall, and if we select that, then we get our configuration UI along with a preview of what's going to be displayed. Now, from my perspective, this configuration layout is a little bit off, as you don't specify the entities until the bottom of the screen, and ideally they would be at the top so that you get to see the card preview change as you go along, but you can always scroll down and specify those first just to make things easier. So starting off then, and if I just add in a couple of entities, so if I choose a vibration sensor, which as you can see has a state change in it, and then I'll add in a motion sensor as well, which has had quite a few changes to that as well. So then we have our display options and the time period for the card. Then we have some switches for things like icons and labels, minimum and maximum values, whether we want a compact mode, which basically just reduces the empty space a bit, inline mode, so that's putting the chart alongside your entity name all in one row, and gradient mode, which I'm assuming would be more impressive when you set up the various colors for the chart. Talking of which, you can define those in the state configuration along with the threshold settings as well. If I just save this then, and then that's what it looks like on the dashboard. You can click into the further details if required, and you can configure that to be something else via the UI if you wanted it to be. There's a whole bunch of configuration on the GitHub page, including the per entity configuration and an explanation of how short duration events are displayed as well. So that might determine how and where you use this card on your dashboard. There's also a good few examples here showing you how you can use this and potentially take those and build upon them for your situation. So that's Horizontal Waterfall Card. Like all the other cards, there's a link to this one in the description down below. Finally, we have something that you may have already seen in some of my other videos, as I've been using this one instead of the default card for quite some time now. And this card is called Gauge Card Pro. This is one of those cards that has improved as time has gone on, and I initially used it because I couldn't find anything else available that did what I needed it to do. But if you need a good all-round gauge card, then I would certainly consider looking into this one. Feature-wise, it supports dual gauges. It has very nice gradient support for the different segments on the card. You can add icons to the display, and it supports templates as well. But as you can see here with these examples, you can create some very impressive results with this card. Again, we need to use HACS to install this. Now, I already have it installed, but if you just search for Gauge Card Pro, and there should just be this one available to download. So select that and then click on the download button in the bottom right corner, and then on the version pop-up, just click download again. Once that's installed, just click reload, and then if we go into our dashboard, we should now be able to add this card by searching for gauge. Now, I have a few different ones already installed, but if we choose the Gauge Card Pro, and you should then get the configuration UI along with the preview of what's going to be displayed. So it's defaulted to an entity already, but I'm going to create a gauge for disk usage on one of my computers. So if I just select that, and as you can see, the preview has been updated. If we want an inner gauge, then we can specify a second entity here as well. We can then style the displayed information on the card. So our titles, for example, we can use templates here along with the font and color options. We can do the same for the value that's displayed just above the name as well if we want to. We have the option to add icons to the left or right of the chart, and I've not had to use this yet, but in the examples it does show these when something like a heating system is being used. There's lots of interaction options here as well, whether that's clicking on the icons, the text displayed, the value, giving you lots of different ways to use and interact with the gauge. And as you may have seen in the examples, you can also add climate features to the bottom of the gauge as well, and it will automatically detect those entities in Home Assistant for you. There's also a configuration assistant for the card for generating the YAML, but honestly, the UI configuration is pretty straightforward, and I'm not sure why you need something to guide you through, but still, it's a great thing that the developer has thought of that as an option. You've then got options for configuring the segment colors and defining the values for each segment size, including those for the inner gauge. And finally, you have advanced options for changing the gradient resolution and the animation speed for the gauge. I think this is a pretty comprehensive gauge card, and certainly if you take a look at all of the configuration details on the GitHub page, it's quite extensive with CSS styling and YAML examples aplenty. So if you want to upgrade the gauges on your dashboard, then check out Gauge Card Pro via the link in the description below. So that's it. 5 cards for your Home Assistant dashboards that will all add something a little special. Hopefully you can find a use for them in your smart home setup. Let me know in the comments below if you're planning on using any of them, or indeed if you already do. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss more smart home content like this. But as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.